What's going on, Puckheads? We welcome you back in to another episode of Pens and Pucks. As always, I'm your co-host Jordan, and I'm joined by my other co-host Nick. How you doing tonight, Nick?
What's going on, Jordan? Long day.
Longer trying to put up the back.
Call Jordan for contracting. He's A1. He got the ladder out and everything tonight. Look out.
Oh my god. That's because I used to put it up with the chair, and then one night before we went live, the chair went out from under me, bro.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be a ladder match back there. Little Ric Flair, woo! Right? Happening?
Buddy, I would have gone to the top of the ladder and you would have seen me come off it, bro. So the Penguins, they're coming off huge back-to-back wins over the New York Islanders. And let's start off with their first game against them that they happened to win 6-3. They got outshot 32-21. They won in the face-off circle, which we said was key. They won in the special teams department on that game, going 2 for 4 when the Islanders went 0-4. But the giveaways again, 13 giveaways to the Islanders too. Wasn't pretty in that, in that sense of the game. But let's get your thoughts on that first game, where we kind of gave them the work on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I think, in terms of that first game, the way we came out was fast, a lot of energy. And I think we sort of surprised the Islanders. I think the game plan going into this
surprised the Islanders. Hell, Brian Rust surprised me that he could score 3 times in one game.
Oh, yeah, for sure, right? The Rusty Razor. But they came out hard. And I think the game plan going into the Islander series was to score first. Definitely, scoring first against the Islanders, it gets them to open up a little bit. And you saw that right away. Some odd man rushes were happening. We were the first of the puck. Good forecheck. Special teams was huge that game, like you said. We went 2 for 4. They went 0 for 4. And again, when you're playing the Islanders, puck possession is so key. And, faceoffs were 55% for the Penguins to the 45% to the Islanders. So I think that was a huge difference. And like you said, production from, Sid's line was there. And then the rest of the crew. Giveaways, 13-2 that game for the Pens. But we talked about this before the series, is that there's going to be a lot of guys getting a lot of minutes that they're not used to.
Mm-hmm. Were you surprised as I was? Because we talked about their goaltending situation heading in, and Sorokin really hadn't been exposed all season, and we kind of gave him the business. Were you surprised at how bad he looked, and they obviously ended up pulling him, but were you surprised by how he came out and just fell flat on his face against us?
I was pretty shocked, but I was also shocked that they started Sorokin that first game. I thought Varlamov would have been between the pipes just to get that first
set the
tone for the series.
Yeah.
But we chased him out of the net. Sorokin very, very fast. He let in some weak goals. But again, the power play is clicking at a high percentage right now. A lot of tic-tac-toes, a lot of play to the bumper where Russ scored. So, things were full throttle against the Islanders at first, I would say, 35 minutes of the game.
Were you happy with your boy, the Big Z?
Well, you know what?
Because your boy Goudreau, Freddie Hockey, showed up.
Yeah.
He showed up.
Yeah. I was just looking at the minutes again tonight from that game, and if you look at, Freddie Goudreau played 17 minutes. You look at a guy like Czar, Reese.
Your boy Sevier had over 18 and a half.
But this is what I'm telling you, Jordan. That's crazy, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you're talking guys that are used to playing like 5 to 6 minutes a game. They're in double digits. They're getting into the 20s almost. Zorona played 7:20. That fourth line
played about 7 minutes too, right?
Yeah, that line played sparingly. The guy that really showed up again was, I really like Lafferty's game recently. He's been really skating well, getting first in the puck. Again, understanding his strengths. Not looking to be that, that goal scorer or that offensive player. Just play your role. Another guy that played well was, that's been playing well is Jared McCann. He's come back really hard and is looking good. And again, you look at Brian Rust, you look at Jared McCann, they're streaky scorers. We need these guys to be on a streak now with all the injuries that the Pens have.
Yeah. And then you go look at the second game. It was a little bit, this was the game we expected, right? We warned everyone 2-1 games, 3-2 games. Like, I think what you said, you didn't expect anyone to be able to score 4 goals in the game or whatever the case may be, right?
No.
And obviously they kind of threw that one out the window in the first, but then that second game with Varlamov starting and playing the full thing, it turned into that game we expected. Now, we didn't expect what happened to Jari to happen, but it did, and we'll talk about that in a sec. But again, we didn't get as badly outshot. We only got outshot by 3 shots. We dominated in the faceoff circle again. We converted 1 of 3 on the power play. They converted 1 of 4, so they did pot 1. But they 52 hits to 23. And again, we weren't on the right side of the giveaway margin, and it was kind of lopsided again. Like, they minimized their giveaways. They only had 3 in the first game. They had 2 in the second game. You know what I mean? And again, we came with 8 this time around. This was the game you expected, and you talk about guys being streaky. Well, Anthony Angelo and Jared McCann were the guys who potted them for us. Marino and Matheson both doubled up on the assist column, and our top line, that Crosby line, wasn't, at least on the score sheet, as effective as we expect them to be, because we're really top heavy right now, but they still found a way to win, also with losing their starting goalie, right? Because DeSmith ended up coming in, and DeSmith was the one who let in the goal. What were your thoughts of that second game?
Again, we got that early lead, which again put the Islanders back on their heels. They got to open up a little bit, but it became that more of a chess match game, a little bit more of a grind. I thought the Islanders really played hard those last 40 minutes of the game. DeSmith came in, which everybody was shocked. Jari, played a decent first, and then DeSmith came in, and he came in cold, but he played rock solid. That score, they hung on to that 2-1 lead. It was. It was a game for survival. Let's get out of here with those 2 points. But again, how are the Islanders when they play from behind? They're a team like back in the day. New Jersey was the same way. If they get that 1 goal on you, okay, they play a passive forecheck. They clog up that neutral zone, protect the net. Very hard to get to the net. Exactly the game that I thought that it was going to be this series was Monday night for sure. Positives, like you said, the face-off percentage, really, really good. Something about DeSmith, again, he is playing phenomenal hockey. He came in, shut the door. Yeah, he let the 1 goal in, but he made some big saves early when he came in. That game could have went sideways very, very fast the first 5-6 minutes of that second period. Talking about DeSmith right now, he's second in the league with a .964 save percentage, which is incredible. There are people out there I've talked to in regards to the Penguins, some chatter that believe that, the team, we talked about this last time as well, the team does play differently in front of DeSmith and Jari. But again, coming in just off the bench and playing the way he did is awesome. I thought it was really good on him.
What are your thoughts of Sid's game over the last over the Islanders series? Because he was a guy who was coming on, heading in. He scored a goal and he had an assist in the first night. And what did you think of the top line in that second game?
Again, that first period, the first period was a really good period for all 4 lines. I think Sid's game's been good in this Islanders series. But if you notice what happened throughout the game in both games, even in that first game when we put up the 6er there, they came at us pretty physical, sort of like a playoff style. How are we going to handle that? You look at the second game, 52 hits to 23, right? We're a team that normally averages, mid-teens, even for us to get 23 hits is pretty good. But, once we get tighter and closer to those playoffs, and we talked about this before, the East Division is, that clutch, still a little bit of that clutch and grab, but that hard hockey. And, Is our lineup tough enough? We'll see. We played a speed game. I think Sully's game right now, the way he's preaching it, there's a buy-in. And I don't know if you see this, Jordan, but I'm seeing it. It comes down even to last year when Sid was out of the lineup with his core surgery there. The team plays totally different when one of the big guys are out. You look at this team, and it looks like when I was watching this team last night, I was like, you know what? This team looks like a cup contender. The way they're playing, and as crazy as it sounds, they're getting production from guys that like Anthony Angelo, right? Like that's how you win cups. We've been talking about this. Yes, I do think they need a couple more pieces, but what were your thoughts on the second half of that game, Jordan?
Well, I wanted to just stop for a second, and we've mentioned here on the show multiple times about how before the Malkin stuff happened, about how one of the biggest, most frustrating things about this team is when one guy's out, all of a sudden the team and the other guy left standing elevate. Like look at when Sidney went down. Malkin's out here winning Hart trophies and Art Rosses, bro. You know what I mean? Like it's just, I gotta ask you this because it popped into my head when you were talking there. Would that make you even more inclined to split them up?
Split them up in terms of like trading? You're talking about? Well, I think this year, again, you have Malkin just went on long-term injured reserve here.
I mean like in the off season. In the off season.
In the off season?
Yeah.
Depending on what you can get, definitely for sure. I think that's an open conversation. The one thing you see Dumoulin come back and you see Letang play better. We've said this a number of times. I've said this on like a broken record. Ever since Burke and Hextall has come aboard with this team, it's a different team. I think people are playing for their jobs, and I think that there's more of a height of an awareness of playing Sully's system, and it just goes to show when everybody's buying in and you play a more simple game, not as fancy. Pucks in deep, that all that type of traction. You see a different team. Do I think Gino would be on the block? Hey, you know what? I definitely have some feelers out there and see what you can get in return. It doesn't it can't hurt, right?
But isn't that worrisome that all that stuff you just mentioned goes out the window when another guy comes back? And we've had different players around these two guys.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the energy or the thought process of when they got it. Oh, one of them will get it going. But and again, we've had different guys not only around them in the top six, but even in the bottom six. Yeah. Isn't that worrisome that kind of belief system or that kind of energy has stuck around even as this roster's been turned over around them?
That just comes down to the core leadership of the team. That is worrisome for me because, even listening to the Mark Madden show the other day, they were talking about when Gino comes back into the lineup. What does that look like? And Madden said it perfectly. He's like, Gino's going to be Gino. He's going to, dipsy doodle through the neutral zone. He's going to be doing his thing. And that's when things start to unravel. Because what happens is, as a leader, he has an A on his jersey. He does it. Okay, I can do it. Whereas he sees Sid, okay, if he's getting the puck in deep, if Letang's not pinching all the time, those guys feed off it. The younger players feed off it. And now you're starting to see that, again, the problem is when you have Gino and you have Sid in the lineup, they believe that they're a team that can still play the run and gun. And they're not. They're not a run and gun team no more. They have offensive power, but they don't have guys that consistently put up numbers like they used to, like a Sid and Gino. Okay, so they got to sort of pull back. Even like Jake. Jake's having a good year, but he's been streaky this year as well. He's been consistent, throughout the way. But like the last couple of weeks, he's been in and out of terms of having good games. I thought last night he was sort of somewhat invisible for me. But what do you think? Do you think they look at trading Gino in the offseason?
I think they do, bro. Because let me ask you this, okay? Yeah. New regime comes in. Yeah. Me and you have been noticing this for years. Mm-hmm. we can't be the only ones in the league, let alone the only ones in that franchise that notice that.
Yeah.
You don't think Hextall and here's the thing, they came in at the right time. They saw all of us at full strength. Then they saw us lose pieces and they see you're telling me Burke and Hextall aren't seeing the difference in play right now? That's where I'm going with that.
You got two really good hockey minds there. They're seeing that for sure. You know, I think the transition in the off season, I think, like you said, they've gotten they got a picture of what the team looks like at the full roster, except for Jason Zucker. They got a couple of games in. He's back now. When they get that full roster, this roster can be very, very dangerous when you put all the pieces together. Like, honestly, Jordan, you take a look at it, and if the way they're playing, and if everybody can buy in,
if they played like this with everyone at full health,
look out.
We could contend for a cup, man.
100%. And that's why I said that last night. I got that feeling watching this team because I'm seeing guys that are picking up their game, that are contributing, that you don't really see that we didn't see that the first couple months. Now we're starting to see that. That being said, I'm still going to say you still need to maybe add one or two pieces. It could be off the waiver wire. It could be a minor trade. Just to get your team a little bit deeper. I still think we need to be more physical. There needs to be, somebody to come in and police a little bit if we get into a heavy series against the Islanders or the Bruins or whoever it is. But you're right. I think like this, there's a smell out there, that smell of this team starting to believe. And when you look at this team, Jordan, the month of March, we went 12-3-1. Okay. Beauty. Like, we've separated where we started this podcast in the beginning of March and we were worried about getting in the playoffs. We were having that conversation. I think the first 3 or 4 podcasts we talked about that. Now we've separated us from, that 4 spot. We can still finish 1, 2, or 3, but there is some breathing room now for the Penguins. With that being said, you look at everything that's coming together. The goaltending is rocking. The fourth line's rocking. A lot of pieces. With all these injuries, we get all these pieces back. Blueger's skating. Tanev is skating. Kapanen, I'm sure he'll be back soon. Malkin to me is still a wild card. Like I heard last night, is one of the reasons why they put him on long term is that if they need to make a trade, his salary's not on the cap, right? So they need to bring a little bit because once you get into playoffs, that cap thing goes away. Right? Yeah. So, you look at the month of March, 12-3-1, like I said, they had 57 goals for, Jordan, 29 against. That's an average of 3.56 a game. And that'll win you games. 3 goals will win you games. The awesome stat that I love, which what the Penguins have gotten to now, is the 1.81 goals against in the last 16 games. Fantastic. You can't, if we looked at, we did an episode there a couple of weeks ago with the stats, and I've been watching this carefully with the Penguins, and they're starting to climb into certain categories, hitting that, top 15 category, and that's where you need to be. We talked about it. You get to that top 10, you're going to be really a contender. You're going to be going into the playoffs hot. Special teams are going to be good, and that's where you win the cups. Defense first, special teams.
All right, so we got a big series on hand right now with the Boston Bruins. And we're heading into this. We're clicking at a 20.8% on the power play, which is 15th in the NHL. They're clicking at about 23.2, which is 11th in the NHL. They have the number 1 penalty kill in the NHL at 89.5, and we have the 18th at 78.2. You go a little bit further. They're the first team in the NHL in terms of face-off percentage, winning about 56.4%. We're the 20th at about 49.4%. When you look at goals for, that's where they get a little bit, they're 20th. They're at 2.66. We're 12th right now at 3.17. But goals against, what you just mentioned has brought it up, our average up. We're 10th in the NHL right now, allowing 2.61. They're fourth in the NHL, allowing about 2.34. What's crazy is they average about, like I said, 2.66 goals for. Well, we allow 2.61, so it's right there, right? So,
Yeah.
I got to get your thoughts on, you're heading into this game. Over the last 5 games, their number one point getter is David Krejci. He only has 5 points too. So, we've talked about how top heavy they are, how reliant they are, especially on that top line, putting numbers on the board. What are your thoughts heading into this series? Because, we walk away, Nick, we sweep them in this series, we might kill any chance of them creeping up on us.
So again, going into last night, looking further ahead, you look at, okay, Jari DeSmith. Now this sort of changes, and hopefully there's an update tomorrow with Jari. If you look at the Boston series so far, the 4 games we played them, we've lost 3 out of the 4. We lost both games in Beantown. We lost 3-2 in overtime. We lost 4-1. The games at home in Pittsburgh this year, we won 4-1 and we lost 2-1. It is a big series. The nice thing about this is if we have to go, and I think this is what Sully will do if Jari's unavailable, is he'll go to Smith back to back. And because he can, because there's an extra day between games. We play Thursday and we play Saturday. Saturday's an afternoon game. Tomorrow night, or Thursday's at 7 p.m. So I think that's what you'll see Sully do. There's no way. I don't think he puts in Larmy to play if Jari's out. The big thing, again, like you said, top heavy forwards. This is another team, Jordan. They had a big comeback tonight. They were losing 4-2. They won 5-4 in shootouts against the Devils. So, that's a positive. I look at that as a positive because if they would have lost that game 4-2, that they're coming out guns a-blazing on Thursday night, right? So, they got their cookies tonight, and then hopefully, we go in there and we cause some damage. I'm not again. We talked about this offline. There's a few arenas I hate the Penguins playing in. It's Boston, it's New Jersey, it's Long Island,
Florida,
another one. Even like if you talk about, back in the day when we were playing crossing over in conferences, Dallas, those places there. But in the East, Boston's always been one of those, like, no matter how good we play, it seems we never get a break there, right? So, going back to, we lost in overtime, that 3-2, we had like a 2-on-0, 2-2-on-0s, Gino had a breakaway. Halak started tonight. I'm sure he'll be the starter on Thursday because Rask is still injured. So you'll probably see Halak back to back. Like you'll see the Smith back to back. Again, this is a game of possession. Face-offs are going to be huge. Power plays are going to be huge. You need to get the lead. Again, if you get the lead on Boston, of course, New Jersey gave it up today. But if you get a lead and you play tight, I think you can win. But when you play against Boston, if you give up that lead, Pittsburgh always has a hard time climbing back, especially in Boston.
What's your X factor for the Penguins in this series?
It's got to be Sidney Crosby. It's got to be at the top line. They have to produce. They have to match Pasternak, Marchand, and Bergeron. They have to match them.
Mine's the Smith.
Is it? Yeah,
he's got to keep it going, brother. Right now, there's no. We can't even rotate in this series, bro.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say the Smith. I was right there with you. It's the battle of the backups right now but again, somebody said to me yesterday, is the Smith the backup of the Penguins or is he the starter? Right? Because honestly, Jordan, when you watch the Smith play, I'm actually more calm when the Smith is in net than when Jari's in net. Jari sort of, sometimes to me, he looks like he loses focus, he loses his net, and the Smith is very smooth. He's a small guy as well, but the difference between having Jari in the net and the Smith is also, Jari can play the puck for you as well, right? So he's like another defenseman to break out. But the X factor for me, if there's 2 X factors, I agree. The Smith, and it's got to be the matchup of the top lines.
Are you worried that if Marchand starts getting under skin, we don't have anyone to push back?
Well, that's where you have to, a guy like Angelo, he's got to come in and he's got to, use his big body, and he's got to, if he's got to throw some knuckles, he's got to do that.
Mhm.
I really think that you don't see really Marchand play that game right now because they're such in a tight playoff race that they don't need his shenanigans out there. I think he's
Mhm.
more focused on, contributing offensively and getting the 2 points. I think that they'll stay away. Maybe you'll see some face washes in front of the net, but um, uh, yeah, I think he's more concerned on making the playoffs right now because we're down the stretch. It's down the stretch right now where it'll be April 1st on Thursday.
So Bluger and the Tanev, they joined the optional skate on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how close are they to coming back from what you understand?
Well, they didn't skate with the squad, right? So
No,
they
no,
didn't
no,
skate with
yeah.
they didn't skate with the taxi squad, or they didn't skate with the actual team. They skated with Ty Haynes there, the training coach. So I'd probably say they're probably 10 days away. I would say
Mm,
if I had an estimation, I don't see them coming back until probably around that 9th or 10th mark. Especially if the Penguins are winning, there's really no need to bring guys in the lineup. For me, Jordan, I'm looking at a split this series. If you can split, that's a win, and then you move on. Um, because really, like I said, we've separated ourselves from that 4 spot. I think going forward, you can split, you'll be okay. Like you said, if you really get to 4 points, then wow, it's like I was hoping for a split against the Islanders, and then you come out on Saturday night and you blow them out, and then last night you squeeze in that 2-1 win. You get the 4 points here. It's huge. I don't know if you saw some of the comments Barry Trotz made last night, but he was really sucking out as well. DK Sports had some quotes that Pittsburgh didn't have much after the first 2 goals. Blah blah blah. He was just really going off. He's really sucky because we've owned the Islanders actually all year this year, and I think he's sort of worried that maybe Sully sees some kryptonite in that armor there.
hmm And from what you're understanding, I know Kapanen got put on the injured reserve on Saturday. What's your understanding with is Jari day to day, or do you think he's going to hit the IR?
Well, again, after Sully's press conference, he was saying he was had to be further evaluated. That's his norm after every game if somebody gets hurt. There's been no update on his status, but again, you have Legacy being called up to the taxi squad from Wilkes-Barre tonight or this afternoon, and that tells me something's happening here. That again, you're going to have the Smith and Larmy head to Boston, and Jari stay back maybe for further evaluation. Um, yeah, to me, when they showed Jari leaving the ice on the telecast last night, somebody wrote in one of the papers I was reading that they think it's an upper body. To me, I think it's a lower body. If you watch, if you have a chance to watch it, if you can find it anywhere, when he jumps onto the bench after the period, there's a little hobble. There's a little hobble in the left leg.
Mm,
So he might have tweaked his groin, knee, whatnot. I'm thinking it's a lower. I'm not a betting man on this one, but that's what it looked like. So I think he's out for this series, and hopefully, knock on wood, he's not out for a longer term.
yeah. All right. So you wanted to take a quick glance over the Pittsburgh Penguins' current roster. The floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, so looking at the roster, you have Jason Zucker coming into the lineup, which was great to see. But again, if you look at his value, it's quite alarming. He has 7 points in the last 18 games, which is a $5.5 million player. He's not cutting it, Jordan, for me. And again, I'm going to give him a mulligan on last night back in the game. Practicing and playing at game speed is totally different. But this is a guy, we go back to, looking at Malkin in the offseason. That guy, to me, if I'm Berkey and Hextall, this is a chance for Zucker to show what he's worth and see how he plays the rest of the games here into the playoffs. Make a call after that. If you're talking 5.5 million, Jordan, we talked about this before. He's a guy that maybe I'd put on the third line. That's way too much money to have invested on a third line player. Okay. So
And at the rate he's playing, you're not going to get much value for him.
yeah, yeah, right. And again, listen to some media guys yesterday in the Pittsburgh area. They're really and this is like inside stuff that they're talking about. Some reporters, they're talking about Sully's really happy with Rodriguez. He's playing a really good game right now. Seaver's playing big minutes. The two guys that everybody's talking about that they want to see replaced on the roster is Jankowski and Sevier. Okay, not that they've been playing bad. Actually, Sevier's been playing decent, but those are the two guys that I think Berkey and Hextall are looking to replace on that bottom line. Okay, so you talk about a centerman. We've talked about different centers and whatnot. But for me, the interesting when I look at the Penguins roster, we talk about Freddie Hockey. He's been playing really good hockey for the Penguins. But that being said, you get called up, Jordan. You know how this is, right? You get called up, and then you have those juices flowing. You're playing amazing those first 3-4 games, and then that complacency starts to set in. I'm here with the big club, right? Does he continue this flow throughout the remainder of the season if he has a chance to stay with the big club? And does he play like that in the playoffs? That's sort of a risk factor. That's a 50-50. You're betting there. Or do you bring in a veteran guy or a younger guy with a smaller contract that like a Luke Glendening from Detroit that has that face-off percentage value, that is a big body, he can throw his weight around. That's something that they probably have to look at. So you look at that. Again, you look at a guy like Aston Reese. Like, where's his game at? Is he going to be a fourth liner? Everybody's talking about keeping that third line together. The Tanev, the Bluger, Czar line together. But realistically, is that feasible once Tanev and Bluger come back? Or do you put Czar to that fourth line? Jordan, you look like a guy like a Bobby Ryan. You've talked about this before. Imagine getting Bobby Ryan, sliding him into that fourth spot with another centerman, and then maybe you have Czar on that other side, right? Like those are the pieces that I think that are going to be happening here with this team. Because again, Anthony Angelo, yes, he's his traction's getting better and whatnot, but he's not a guy that I think he still needs to have some time in Wilkes-Barre. But if you're looking at that, that window that we've been talking about and Burke's been talking about, you really got to manage that fourth line, because I honestly believe the Penguins can have probably the third best line in hockey once you have your Sidney line, right? Then you have, if Gino comes back, then you have Kapanen, okay, and you have maybe Zucker. Let's say if they put Zucker there, or you put him in the third line, then you have Jared McCann, like with Bluger and Tanev, like that is a speedy line, lots of energy. Everybody's talking about it again, Jordan. I know you're busy with the football stuff and whatnot, but the HBK line, this is being talked about in Pittsburgh right now. And you know why it's being talked about? Because they want to find that third line to contribute in the playoffs every game. This is going to be and they have the tools to do that. They can put Tanev, Zucker, and Bluger. Like, you have so many different options now. And then you go McCann, Kapanen, and Malkin, right? So, but then that fourth line, what does that fourth line look like? The D solidified. Pettersson, is he going to be the guy that might be the scapegoat? See you later. Years are 4.5. Friedman comes in. The interesting part about Friedman, though, is that he's been skating a lot with the taxi squad, and I'm not understanding still why he's not with the big club and why we haven't seen him, be put into the lineup. There's been a number of scouts at the games, a lot of teams from the Central Division, so that's interesting. Maybe something's happening there. The Nashvilles, the Dallases, the Detroits. But the reason why I wanted to talk about the roster tonight is just looking at the guys, the depth guys, and where they're going to place once these guys come back from injury. What are your thoughts there? What do you think?
Well, from what I'm diagnosing, you want pieces added to the bottom six. You're not really interested in adding pieces to the top six.
I think, yeah, I think you're top heavy. I think, if Gino comes back and you have that Kapanen McCann or Kapanen Zucker line, that's a good line.
Do you think he will be back by the playoffs?
Is that Gino you're talking about? I don't know, man. Like, because
let me ask you this: if he's not, are you targeting a second line? Are you targeting a center?
If he's gone for the year, per se, you have that cap value now. You have that cap space. then maybe you look at something like that. The worrisome for me with Malkin is he's not skating. Something's up with that knee. Something's up with it. Either it's really swollen. They said that he's doing rehab, off ice, but not even not even a glimpse. I don't know if you have to do that if you've seen his wife, but not even a glimpse of maybe going out and testing it. Nobody's reporting that, right?
And I didn't mean he was doing that. I mean, like, the guy who can't find a gym is all of a sudden in rehab. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So
it's rehab's Twinkies and Fortnite.
Yeah, maybe the Patrick Liney recipe.
But that's a serious question because his status and his health, and we'll get into it right now. We'll start off, but like we'll get into the rumors, but let's start off with this. His status and his health has a big impact on what you're going to do at the trade deadline. It's huge.
It is, if not the biggest decision they have to make going into the playoffs. It's absolutely huge. If you lose Malkin, who's the second line center? We know that. Okay, right now they're playing.
It's going to be Bluger by now.
Well,
when he's back,
could be, but I think right now But again, then if it's Bluger second line, what happens to
not good?
The other
Bluger or McCann isn't a good option,
right?
Bro.
Yeah, right.
You're not winning Jack Bo Diddley in the playoffs with that.
But I do think, Jordan, that Sully's really, really focused on that Czar, Tanev, and Bluger line. So I don't even see when Bluger comes back, if Gino's not in the lineup, him going to that third line. I think right now McCann's going to be the guy to your second line, right? So you're absolutely right with what is this team going to look like, and I think it's a huge decision here with what happens with Gino, because they might have to go different directions here.
And I hope he comes back before the playoffs because you want him to get his legs under him before you hit the playoffs.
Of course, because he was just getting his legs when he took that hit, right? So you're going to know Gino's famous for this. It takes him a little while to get that engine going, right? So, if he comes back that week of, August 9th, August 12th, which is, again, almost 12 days from now, and he has the rest of the season to, maybe play 10 games, 12 games, then he'll be ready to go into the playoffs. But the interesting about this, even the roster talk here, Jordan, for me is, now that we've, gained some points here in that fourth spot, hopefully, knock on wood, is now where we're going to end up. We're going to be in a heavy series here. It's going to be either the Islanders, I think, or Washington, right? So,
at least, with Washington, he gets up for those games too, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I just can't believe when I look at Washington's record right now.
We're right there, though, buddy.
No, I know we are. It's just,
and they lost tonight to the Rangers, right?
Yeah, and they had an early 2-0 lead on them.
I love it, baby. I love it. Bye, Braden Holtby. So I don't know if they'll recover from that, bro. I really honestly don't. Now that they don't have the goaltending in front of that team, it's a totally different beast for them, bro. And I see it. Call me crazy. I see an early exit for the Capitals, bro. All right, so let's get into some of the stuff we're hearing now. Yeah. Last time we were here, I brought up maybe bringing in a guy like Glenn Denning because we were talking about, we were talking about the face-off circle and adding to the bottom six, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what happened was NBC Sports' Adam Gretz is reporting that we might be focused in on a guy that I don't think either one of us brought up. And that's Anthony Mantha out of Detroit, adding some size and some grit, but he's also got hands. And if you look at the history of Burke and Hextall, they like bigger bodied guys. What are your thoughts on potentially adding a guy like Anthony Mantha to this lineup?
Huge. That would be really, really interesting to see. Like you said, big boy, big body. But Mantha's a different type.
He's got term. He's got term on his contract.
He's got term, but the big question I have for any of these all the Penguin fans out there, if you've watched Matt, and I've watched him a number of games throughout his pro career here, he's a big body, but he doesn't play big. That's deceptive. You look at how big he is. I don't know if you have it up on your screen, Jordan, how big Mantha is. But in terms of playing a big man's game, I don't know, but he's offensively skilled. He's got good hands. He's got good speed. He does make the lineup bigger, of course, right?
So he's 6'5", 225.
Yeah, big boy, but he doesn't play like that. So, that's the question. But if you're looking for a big boy to come in the lineup and definitely add some size, and also you're bringing, if you're putting him again, this is when the Penguins roster is healthy, it can be deadly. And if you put him in the lineup as well, it even gets better. Like you're talking top heavy from the third line to the first line.
What are some of the things you're hearing right now?
Yeah, so with the Penguins, we talked about Luke Glendening. We also talked about the Ryan Getzlaf offline. Okay, I really think that there's going to be some traction there towards the end here. I'm also hearing a guy like Kyle Palmieri from the Devils. Also heard that. Again, you're getting not a big guy in stature, but you're getting a guy with grit, leadership, goes in front of the net, plays a hard game, which you need, and he can be a little bit of a pest. Okay. I also heard another name, and this is an interesting one too. I somewhat don't believe it. Again, it's not from a really credible source because there's rumors flying around on the internet like crazy. But there is a source that's saying that he will be moved, and he's your boy. That man, I think we've talked about this guy 1,000 times over again, Jordan. At trade deadline is Matt Duchene.
Wow. What would you have to give up though? We don't have the assets.
Right. So there's talk of Columbus being interested in him again. Right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, and what the trade would be Liam Foudy, which is a upcoming player, forward, played for the London Knights, very good. He actually rocked the Leafs in the bubble. He was part of that Columbus team that really threw off the Leafs. And then they have Gustav Nyquist. So you're getting a young prospect and you're getting a veteran player. So my thing with Duchene is he hasn't won anywhere, Jordan. Like it's almost like you get him on your team and it becomes a disaster.
Remember when he went to Columbus and everyone was like, "Oh my God, they're so deep, they're so stacked."
Yeah,
and they just fell on their
Yeah, he doesn't have playoff success. There's another guy again that is out there for again, but this would be more of a deal that I can't see happening. There's been talk about Jake DeBrusk being out in the rumor mill. I don't see Boston trading him to Pittsburgh, but he's another guy that maybe for the right package, depending on where Boston finishes, they finish fourth, and we don't play them first round. Maybe there's a chance of getting him. He's another guy that he's been one of my guys I really like. This year he's having a bad year, but he plays physical. He's got a nose for the net. He's another guy that you could throw on a third or fourth line, even a second line to add. There's a rumor of Taylor Hall going to Boston. Okay, for Jake DeBrusk, Studnicka, and first round draft pick. That's insane if you're paying for that for Taylor Hall, which becomes a unrestricted free agent at the end of the year, right? And then also there's talk of Ryan Ellis being in the market too as well. Not for Pittsburgh, but
yeah. Are you shocked with the fall from grace Shane Gostisbehere has endured the last couple of years and now being placed on waivers?
No, because he was actually falling out of sort the last couple of years. Flyer fans were calling for a trade. He's one of those players that he's offensively gifted. He makes a lot of mistakes. He's not good in his own zone. He sort of reminds me, maybe he needs a change of scenery. He reminds me of Alex Goligoski. I don't know if you remember when he played for the Pens. Lots of skill. Not the best defensively, but he moved on to Dallas, and then to Arizona. And
he was in the James Neal trade.
Yeah, and so I think somebody that's looking for more of that offensive defense and run the power play, you're going to look at Gostisbehere. But Ryan Ellis is a guy that again is out there, and there's a couple of teams that are looking at him. Another wild card that is out there, which I find it hard that Arizona would trade, is Connor Garland. I love that guy. I think he's small, but he's wicked. He cuts in and out, offensive ability like crazy. He's rumored that the Leafs are looking at him right now, right? And they're looking at trading their pick from the draft from this year, our pick that we traded for Kapanen, and also a second round pick for this year's draft. So there's a number of names out there. Taylor Hall, again, he's out there as well. You talked about him the last show about would we go for something like that? I really think that that's going to be out of the question. I think you're going to see more of a guy like the Mantha thing is very, very curious to me. I'd be interested in something like that if that was at play. But
we don't have a ton of capital to move.
Like in terms of cap space. So what's Mantha at right now for his yearly?
Let me look. So, oh man, I hope that's not true.
It's pretty big, I think.
I think it's 5.7 million. I'm just checking.
Yeah.
Yeah, his cap hit's 5.7 million.
Yeah.
But you could add him because Gino's not on the roster right now.
You can add him if Gino comes back. So
up the creek with no paddle.
Yeah. Well, you could still do something like this because Detroit will take on salary too. You could look at Patterson and a Sevier, and there you go. That opens cap space, and you get him right. So it's going to be interesting. Again, I don't think they're going to add any D. I don't think there's need to add any D. You have Joseph in the minors. You have Freeman, and then of course Patterson. The thing will be is that will suddenly be a guy to say, okay, Friedman's my guy, and we've only saw him play a couple of games, so we really haven't seen a full sample size of him. And we'll suddenly have that trust that that he'll say to Berkey and Hextall, okay, yeah, Patterson, you can give up, right? That's going to be the interesting thing.
Do you think we're going to be busy at the deadline?
No. I think you're going to see two. You're going to see two tweaks. You're going to see. I think you'll see two trades, and I think there'll be forwards, and I think there'll be a centerman for the fourth line, and there'll be a winger. I think that's what you're going to see. I'll be surprised if it's a big deal. The Mantha deal, it's got to be a salary issue. But Jordan, if Malkin's out, that turns everything. You might see them go, okay, you know what, Taylor Hall, maybe Taylor Hall, right? You might see something change in that way, depending. And again, the trade deadline's April 12th. Gino's on LTR, I believe, until the 9th of April. So that's right before the deadline. And that will change what the Penguins are going to be doing for sure. So, yeah.
So maybe it could be a Mantha or a Glendening. Glendening makes more sense financially, right?
Financially, yeah, for sure.
So, all right, brother. You want to get into some final thoughts here before we get out of here?
Yeah, again, you know what? It was the March of the Penguins for March. They rocked it. Like we said from the beginning of Pens and Pucks, we were talking about just making the playoffs. Now we're talking about being contenders for the Cup and being contenders to take first place in the East. Big series against Boston. It's all going to come down to, and I agree with you, Jordan, the X factor will be the goaltending. I think it'll be up to the Smith to carry the load. It'll be up to Crosby, Getzel, and Rust to outmatch the Bergeron, Marchand, and Pastrnak line. And also, it's going to be interesting if the third and fourth liners can still produce in this series. I think we'll come out with it with 4 points. it's gonna be a fun 2 weeks here, and I'm excited. January and February I wasn't really excited about Penguin hockey, but now when they're on, it's game on, and I smell it in the air. I smell it in the air, Jordan. And I'm telling you, this team reminds me a lot of 2016. 2016 when Sully came in, he brought in those guys from Wilkes-Barre. They started playing a different style, in your face, fast. I see the same thing happening here. It's just different. Same coach, but there's been some parts being put into the lineup that have helped the Penguins. It's there. This team can be deadly.
Don't jinx it, bro.
No, I'm just telling you. This is what I think.
Yeah. All right, man. So we'll be back later on this week, and I gotta we'll sort that one out, but we'll be back later on this week. And yeah, I mean, huge series they're about to step into, because you can literally put your foot on the throat of the Boston Bruins right now if you manage to go out and sweep this. Now, I know you said split, but sweep has got to be in the mindset. Get them off your ass, right?
Yeah,
and
sure.
If the Caps keep playing the way they do, we might be in first by the end of this week. So knock on wood.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Yep. All right, guys. So until next time, I hope everyone's staying happy, healthy, safe, and blessed during these crazy times. And until then, we'll see you later, puckheads.